الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للتقوى واليقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لما تقولون ما لا تفعلون صدق الله العلي العظيم. First of all, I'd like to thank all the volunteers, all the scholars, all the teachers that have put together, and all the presenters that have put together this training, this workshop for all the teachers that are inshallah learning from it. I hope you all benefit and improve. Our du'as are that the madrasas across UK and across Europe and across the world inshallah benefit from these sessions, and they all learn something from it so they can inshallah improve their classes, and that students learn to be better human beings, better Muslims, better followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And they put into practice what they learn, and they also are able to teach in the future. So thank you very much. The qualities of a teacher. A good teacher always has certain qualities. Someone who is presentable, someone who is very important to the students, because the students always like to listen to the teacher. And the Holy Quran in Surah Hashr very clearly says that I've chosen this ayat for this session. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. O you who believe, why do you say what you do not do? So the most important quality is that you practice what you preach, and your qualities will be transferred spiritually without you knowing to your students. So any sin that you do will be transferred, any good qualities that you have will be transferred to your students. So many times people in holy places in the hawza, sometimes many people do not even like to learn from teachers that they think or know that are not practicing, or even students they don't like to debate with. Like debate in the hawza, there is a term called mubahasa. Mubahasa is something that discussion, we say discuss. So in the same classroom, when there are many students, they have a discussion after the lesson, they call mubahasa. So they discuss what they have learned, and that's how you improve. That's how you truly learn. Unfortunately, in many of these countries, we don't have mubahasa. So they did not even do mubahasa with the people they thought are unpracticing people. So it is very important that you practice what you preach. Okay, the most important quality is practice. Now I'll try and do all of my slides. If you go on to the next slide, and I'll show you the overview. Now, importance of knowledge and teaching. These are the things that I want to very quickly cover. Qualities of a good teacher, qualities of a good student, behavior expected from a teacher to a student, and behavior expected from a student to a teacher. Now, importance of knowledge and teaching should be presented from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. You should emphasize on education, on knowledge, and on religious knowledge, religious education from Quran and Hadith. And it is very important that we all look at some of the Hadith in Usul al-Kafi and many of the other books. So there are translations from, from Mizan al-Hikmah, the Scale of Wisdom in English. So there are many books in English that have the whole chapter on knowledge. So that should be emphasized upon. Now, there is an advice from Imam Khomeini for the teachers, and he says that the world is a school, and prophets and saints are its teachers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, when he says, وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, when he calls the prophets teachers, mu'allimin. So what you're doing is a job of the prophets. So you should know your own worth, your own importance. If you don't know the worth of what you're doing, then you will never do it with heart. You should know that what you're doing is sacred, is important. And if you don't know the worth of your own, if you don't think that what you're doing is important, you will never do it with the heart. So it is very important that you do it with the heart. This is their mission, and after they receive divine teaching. So basically, when it says that whatever you gain from the Holy Quran and Ahadith is something that we're teaching because we're doing religious studies. The Quran states God has sent the Prophet from among illiterate people. Well, from the people of Makkah. Now, because I've taken the translation, and those lacking divine teachings in order to read to them God's verses and thereby transmit to them the advice, the divine teachings he has received, and purify them and instruct them the book and wisdom. So many times we teach illiterate people, and sometimes we don't teach illiterate people, people who are already educated. But we have to make sure that we make a difference to their life. We teach them from our heart. He also said that you and others who have risen up to train teachers should know firstly that this is a godly task, as God is the teacher of prophets. Secondly, purification and education have priority over instruction. Now, so he emphasizes that it is a divine job, teaching. And secondly, purification and education. So tazkiyah is something which is very important. So in Iran, they call it the Department of Amuzish Parvarish, training, education. So it's not just Department of Education, it's Department of Education and Training. So you are from very early age, not only just educating children, but you're also training them. And that comes with purification. If you're not purified yourself, then you are not going to be a good teacher, because religious education is all about purification. So your words will have an impact and effect on the student when you are a practicing teacher, when you have a clean heart, when you have tazkiyah, and you are dedicated. He also says, when he says that you should train teachers so that in addition to their knowledge, which is needed by mankind, they should also have refined minds and spirit. All the damage done in this world is caused by learned specialists who lack true education. What happens is that, unfortunately, you have all sorts of teachers, and they say that in this country we have masajid, Hussainiyas, we have everything for people to have religious education, but we don't have enough schools. So when the children are at schools, they are basically picking up things from their teachers who are either atheists or people who are unpracticing, people who drink, people who do all sorts of sins. And at the moment, and yet they teach. So when you teach and you don't have the qualities of a teacher, unfortunately, what you're doing is you are giving all of those habits without knowing you are giving all of those habits to your students. So it is very important that you practice yourself. You are pure, and without knowing, like I had said earlier on, the teacher will transfer their qualities to their students. So if a teacher has a bad habit of lying, the students will pick it up. If the teacher has a bad habit of backbiting, the students will pick it up. If the teacher does not care about slander, students will pick it up. Without even them realizing, without the teacher realizing, even if the teacher attempts to protect the students and say that, okay, I don't want to give this bad habit to my students, they will still give it because they are not pure. So to give your good qualities is not easy. You have to still install them. Even prophets and imams, they could not give all of their qualities to their even companions or their students. So for us to give every quality that we have, hidayat is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we have to give our best shot in teaching and also in installing. Now, importance of knowledge and teaching. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, shall I inform you who the absolutely most generous one is? Allah is the absolute most generous one, and I am the most generous of Adam's offspring. And the most generous from amongst you all after me is a man who has been taught knowledge and subsequently spreads his knowledge to others. He will be raised on the day of resurrection as a community in himself, as a ummah. Yes, community meaning ummah. Like Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Holy Quran, Kana ummatan qanita. Ibrahim was a content community himself. So some people are ummah, some people are just individuals. And after him is the man who is generous in giving up his life for Allah, mighty and exalted, and is killed for him, meaning shahadat. At-targhib wa tarhib. Now, my point from this hadith, mentioning this hadith, is that we should know the importance of spreading knowledge. So there are so many hadiths. The best of you are the ones who learn Quran and teach it to the others. There are so many hadiths in saying, person who understands religion, person who understands Tawheed, person who understands Vilayat, person who understands Quran, or, so understanding, knowing, and then teaching others. And anyone who is a student, muta'allim, everything repents for the learner, the student, religious student, or حتى الحيتان في البحر, even the inhabitants of the oceans, the fish and inhabitants, other animals that live in the oceans, even they repent for students. So when you start a new year, emphasize on learning different and your own subject, learning knowledge, and also the knowledge that you're teaching. For example, aqaid, about theology. Why is it important? About fiqh. Why is it important? About akhlaq. Why is it important? About Quran, about history. So for generally just knowledge, and then your own subject that you are teaching. Tell them the importance of that. Aqaid, through learning about Tawheed, and you become. So there are so many hadiths that say, learning about Tawheed makes you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who knows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have salvation. The closer you are to Allah, the further away you are from hellfire, Imam Ali al-Islam says. And further away from Allah, you are further away from, you are closer to hell. So when you're away from Allah. Now, this is my idea, the entire idea that, qualities of a good teacher. This is what I think. So there may be many, many others that you can think of, but these are the things that I could think of, so I jotted them down. So there's a simple notes that I made. Qualities of a good teacher. This is what I think. The first is ilm, knowledge. So if a teacher wants to become a good teacher, then they should know their subject matter. If you don't know a subject matter, for example, you don't know history, then don't become a history teacher. If you don't know aqaid, then don't become. And if you want to become a good teacher, then you should at least be 2 books ahead. At least be 2 books ahead of your students, meaning 2 grades, like two levels ahead at least, to be able to teach. So the first thing I believe is knowledge, ilm. And if you don't have ilm and knowledge of the subject matter, if you're not strong in that, then don't teach that subject. Second is action, amal. If you're not a practicing person, then, believe in yourself, believe in your deeds, be a good teacher, be strong, be a practicing person, then become a teacher. Don't just become a teacher for the sake of it. Be dedicated, fully dedicated. So, your actions, at least do your prayers, at least fulfill your obligations. There are basic obligations, which are just, prayers, fasting, hajj in the lifetime, if it is, if it became wajib. And, it's literal, simple things like that. Hijab, for example, for women, for men as well. So be a practicing person. Without becoming a practicing person, you will never become a good teacher. The third quality, I believe, is tawadu, humility. If you're not mutawadi, don't be arrogant. Should not make you a good teacher. You will only become a good teacher when you are mutawadi. So there are many, many hadiths. If you read Muniyatul Murid, by Shahid Thani, there is an English translation, Urdu translation as well. Shahid Thani says that if you want to become a good teacher, then And the student should always be mutawadi in front of the teacher. And the relationship between a teacher and student is like a master and slave. So the student should think that this is my master I'm learning from. So full respect. And the teacher should give full respect to the student as well, and never think and never become arrogant and think that they are, well, they are illiterate, they are, they are jahil, they are ignorant, and I'm teaching them. No, that sort of attitude will not make you a good teacher. So give it your best, be prepared. They may ask me good questions, they may ask me many things. I have to be prepared, encourage them to ask questions. So tawadu with modesty, teach them that they, when people look at them, they say, okay, I learned this from so and so teacher. The fourth quality of a good teacher to me is bayan. Bayan is basically expression of your teaching methodology. How well do you teach? How well do you express yourself? How well do you explain yourself? So now teaching methodology is very important. And I believe that a good teacher is always the one who keeps the class attentive, so they are paying attention. They are attentive, not only just attentive. For example, one of my teachers in Qom used to say that in the morning, I just sit down and teach because I know that everyone has had a good night's sleep, inshallah. So, and they are going to be paying attention because, they've had their breakfast, they've had their sleep, so they're fresh. But in the afternoon or evening when I'm teaching, I know that they've had a long day. Then I stand up and teach and I move around because otherwise I'll put them to sleep. So keeping them attentive, your teaching methodology is very important. How you keep everyone attentive in the class. They should pay attention. They should want to learn. How do you encourage? They may have come because of their parents, oh, you have to go to madrasa. But then it is now your job to win them over. Oh, it is worth a while. So sometimes, people come into your lecture or class, you have to make it worthwhile for them. Now, the fifth quality, which I have mentioned here, is understanding the students. So it is very important to understand. Some of your students may be going through difficult time at home. Some have learning difficulties. Some are faster than the others. They are fast learners. They've learned, and then they think that I'm wasting my time here. The others are not at my pace. So you give them more work. So it shouldn't be very large classes. No more than 20 students, and that's the maximum. If you have less, even better. 10, 15, 12, 14 students, very good. And based on everyone's work, you give them more work. Okay, you read this paper. Okay, read this as well. So you give more work to, understanding your students is very important. Everyone may have, and some may be slow. Don't hold it against them. Give them less work. Don't give them so much homework. Or give them homework and say, okay, you can read this at home. But don't make it seem to them that, oh, you're slow, you're slowing the class down, you're dumb. Never ever disrespect them, but understand. Many people have different ways of understanding. Some students are, they learn through practical things. You need to perform the wudu for them to understand how to perform. Some people just will read and understand. Every student is different, and there are different methodologies of how to teach your subject matter to a particular group. The sixth quality that I've mentioned is control over the class. Now, sometimes, you go into a class and you see that the teacher has no control. And I don't teach, younger teenagers, because sometimes they can be very naughty, demanding, disrespectful, messing around the classroom. They have no respect for the teacher. And they are not responsible. So you give them homework and, you have to chase them to do, so I used to teach at madrasa, and it was difficult because then I was used to of teaching older students, like people at HIWM. I was, used to of teaching at HIWM, where people were learning and they were responsible. They were coming with their own choice, with their own will, with their own enthusiasm and motivation, self-motivated. So sometimes younger students can be, no self-motivation. And children after 6, 7 sometimes can be very attentive and, very paying attention and learn. And sometimes they can be very difficult and, they have no motivation. So every student is different. And, if you have a large class and there are students who are not paying attention, then you'll be wasting time of even the students who do pay attention. So control over the class is very important, that they listen and so sometimes you have to be strict. Yes, I did say humility, tawadu in front of the students, but that doesn't mean that you don't have control over the class. So you have to have control over the class. And I don't like to be strict, but in all of the camps in Majlis Ulama, I was the most strict person. If I didn't look strict, then the children would run over us. They would, kill us. So I always shouted and said, "Get in line!" Like I was screaming and everything. Why? Because you need control. Otherwise, children can run you over. So I do believe that control over the class is a must. If a teacher does not have the command, does not have the command in the class, does not have the control, they will not prove to be good teachers. And finally, the seventh quality is understanding the needs of the time. What do I mean by that? So sometimes, you're living in an age, you're living in an era that has certain needs. So we're living through social media age, gadgets age, I don't know, all of these, different technologies are being used. So we need to upgrade ourselves based on today's needs. Now, also the needs may be different in Iran, in Iraq, in Pakistan, in India, in London, in New York, in Toronto. So every city, even in the same country, the needs of Karachi may be different to the needs of, let's say, Multan. The needs of London may be different to, let's say, needs of Bradford or, I don't know, Glasgow. So you need to understand the age, the era, the quality, the needs of the students, the needs of children going to, very high quality schools like grammar schools, private schools, may be different to the needs of the state school children because they're not getting the quality. Sometimes they may be equally as good. Sometimes they may not be as good in terms of learning abilities. And so you have to understand the needs of the time, of the era, of the age group. Now, you cannot have the same language, same methodology for 12-year-olds as the 16-year-olds, or 8-year-olds as 11 or 12-year-olds. Their needs may be different. The language you use, usually people have, the psychologists who go through the books, the language they use, the terms they use. All of those are very important. I get the organizers keep sending the next slides, meaning that I may not be taking too much time. Okay. Now, I've said this earlier as well, but act upon your knowledge. Why do you say what you do not? So the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, a group from among the dwellers of paradise will look down upon a group from among the inmates of hell, saying, what brought you into the fire when we ourselves entered paradise by virtue of our education and instruction? Upon which they will reply, verily we used to enjoin good but did not act upon it. This is from Makarim al-Akhlaq of Marhum Tabarsi. Now, volume number 2 and page number 364. Now, what this hadith is implying from the Holy Prophet ﷺ is that a lot of the people going to hell will be people who knew but did not practice. On the Day of Judgment, in another hadith, it says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to the people who did not know, why did you not learn? And to the people who knew but did not practice, why did you not practice? Imam Ali Islam says, it is incumbent upon the knowledgeable man to act upon what he knows, and then to seek to learn that which he does not know. This is in Ghurarul Hakam. But also in Nahj al-Balagha, he says that anyone who wants to do islah of the people, who want to rectify the people, then he has to begin from himself. He also says, Imam Ali Islam in Ghurarul Hakam, verily people abstain from gaining knowledge because of the numerous instances they witness of the people's lack of action in accordance with what they know. And this is very important. Unfortunately, a lot of the religious people, not only just scholars, but all religious people, who have a beard or have hijab and pray and attend the masjid. People become distant from religion because of them. And they say, well, this is a religious person. And look at, how he treats his family, how he treats his wife or husband, or they are so rude to their husband, they don't even practice. Or this is, a man who says he's religious, he treats his wife and children or his parents so bad. And that's how people become distant. Your own cousins, your own friends will become distant from religion because of your lack of actions in what you know. A lot of the people leave, religion because of the religious people. They say, oh, these are people who are supposed to be religious. And, they don't even practice. Why do they expect me to practice? So we have to, as religious teachers in Hausa or teachers in madrasas, we have to make sure that we are practicing people. We lay good foundation, Well, he's always rude. He's always shouting. He's always, in a bad mood. What kind of scholar is he? What kind of, teacher is this? So, or she teaches and she's, wearing half sleeve and, she never does proper hijab, what kind of teacher? People they don't care if they don't practice, but, oh, this woman or this man reads Majlis and look at them. They don't even do proper hijab and, without a scarf covering their head, she was reading Majlis. People hold little things against you and they will leave practice because of seeing you that you are not practicing. So please make sure that you do practice. Imam Ali says knowledge is linked to action. So he who knows acts, and knowledge calls for action. So if one answers the call, it remains, and if not, it departs from him. This is in Nahj Balagha saying number 36. So what happens is that if you don't practice, then your knowledge leaves you. Because of, you forget a lot of stuff. You only forget because you don't practice. You don't forget if you practice. And in a very beautiful hadith, Imam Baqir al-Islam says that, in the similar meaning, that man amila alama alima, anyone who practices what he knows, atahullahu ilma ma'lam ya'lam. Allah gives him the knowledge of what he does not. So when you practice what you know, then Allah gives you the knowledge of the things that you don't know. Ittaqullah wa yu'allimakumullah. Quran says that when you have taqwa, then Allah teaches you. So it is important that you practice what you preach. Imam al-Islam says that, this is also in Qur'an al-Hakam, knowledge without action is a curse. And action without knowledge is straying in error. And Imam Khomeini also puts it in a way that people who don't practice and are teaching, it is like shaitan teaching tawheed. So it is extremely important for all of us that we have to practice what we preach. Okay, the next slide I'll go on to. So the more you emphasize on this quality, it still is less. Qualities of a good student. I can skip that if you want, but how do you, so well, you're also students, you're teachers, and we're all students as well for life. We always learn. So if you have these qualities, then you can install them into your students, teach them what qualities they should have. Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Talib alayhi salam says in Qur'an al-Hakam, the student must discipline himself in his quest for knowledge and not become bored of learning, nor overestimate what he already knows. So sometimes you think, we are more learned. I'm learned enough. I know enough. Marhumatullah Tabrizi used to say, Marhumatullah Mirza Jawad Tabrizi, we think that we know more and the others don't know as much as we do. So it is, a bad habit of thinking that you know more. Allama Tabatabai was in Najaf for 11 years. He started off in Tabriz, I think at the age of about 12, 13 in the madrasa, and he was 19 when he moved to Najaf. His parents had died, so he got married and he took his younger brother, Marhumatullah Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Tabatabai. So Allama Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Tabatabai moved to Najaf at 19, and for 11 years he was in Najaf till the age of 30. And he had 10 days of holidays. So the student said, what day was the day you took holidays? At Ashura. He said, then why not 11? So there must have been 11. He said, yes, first year I did not even do a holiday on Ashura and I lost my sight, and then I repented and I said, oh Allah, I will only do I will have a holiday. I said back to Imam Hussain Islam, forgive me. So, don't ever get bored as a student. You know, learn one thing. If you get bored of it, then go into the other. This is what he said. He said, did you not ever get bored? He said, yes. There are many gardens. If you get bored of one garden, go to another one. So if there are, I got bored of, for example, fiqh, I went into usul. From there, I went into hadith. From there, I went into tafsir, kalam, falsafa. So many things that you can. So don't bore yourself. Always be motivated. Imam Islam said, only he who lengthens his study attains knowledge. So you have to, like takrar, as they call it, repetition, and lengthen your study. Repeat what you learn over and over again. Learn for a long time. Learn the same thing over and over again. I've taught some books, so many times, and I still, learn when I go back to them sometimes. Imam Sadiq al-Islam says that knowledge is not acquired through learning. Rather, it is a light that illuminates in the heart of one who wants Allah, blessed and high, to guide him. So if you want knowledge, first seek out within yourself true servitude to Allah and seek knowledge according to its use. And ask Allah to make you understand, and He will make you understand. This is in Bihar al-Anwar. So the first volume of Bihar al-Anwar is about the fadilat of ilm and aql, knowledge and wisdom. So knowledge is acquired, is not acquired through learning. It is, light. Al-ilmun nurun. يقذفه الله في قلب من يشاء ومن يريد. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pours into the heart of whoever He likes. So, through ibadat, through dua, through all of those things, you gain knowledge. So you don't just gain knowledge, I'll learn. That's not true knowledge. True knowledge, true knowledge is through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Sadiq al-Islam also narrates, a man once came to the Prophet asking, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, what is knowledge?" To which he replied, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, paying attention. The man asked, "Then what?" He replied, "Listening." He asked, "Then what?" The Prophet replied, "Learning." The man asked, "Then what?" He replied, "Acting upon it." He asked, "Then what?" The Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to which replied, "Spreading it." So he said, paying attention. So once you are attentive and paying attention to the class, that's when you learn. And then you learn, meaning repeat, act upon it. So don't just learn and then leave it. Many people just learn to teach others and not practice themselves. And then spread it. So spreading it, teaching it is the last stage. So you are at the stage of spreading. So you should pay attention, learn, act upon it, and then spread. So you're spreading knowledge. This is from Al-Kafi, Volume 1. So it is very important that you all have the previous 3 stages. If you don't, get them done. The Holy Prophet ﷺ was once asked, "I would love to be the most knowledgeable of all people." To which he replied, "Be wary of your duty to Allah, and you will be the most knowledgeable of people." Kanzul Ummal. This is from Sunnah book. So when you serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly, that's when you truly gain knowledge. It is important that we practice what we learn. Next slide. Qualities of a good student. I believe the first quality is taqwa and servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So taqwa, many times, you see even religious students who are very rude to the teacher, who are very disrespectful. So the first thing that you will gain knowledge when you have taqwa. You will go far in knowledge when you have taqwa. Without taqwa, ittaqullah wa yu'allimukumullah. So the Holy Quran says that have taqwa and Allah will teach you. Meaning Allah will provide the means, not that He will send you wahi. So He will not send you revelation, but He will provide the means for you to learn from good teachers. You will go to good teachers only when you have taqwa. So the second quality, I believe, is respect. If the student does not have respect for a teacher, then he will not learn from that teacher, because he will think that he has no respect. So sometimes you believe that the teacher is good, but you have an attitude, you don't have respect for the teacher, you will never learn. And that goes with everything, even from your driving instructor, for cooking teacher, for anyone who you want to learn from, you have to have respect for them. Otherwise, you will not learn truly. You will not learn good things from them. You will not pick up the good habits from them. And we've previously learned that the good qualities of the student are paying attention. La khayra fil isha illa li rajulain, alimin muta'in wa mustami'in ba'in. Imam al-Islam in Nahj al-Balagha says that there is no good in this world except for two people. A scholar, a learned person who is obeyed, and the learner who is a good listener. So there is only two, teacher and student, and the teacher should be obeyed, and the student should listen carefully. So paying attention is the most important thing. You think, what did he say? You're not paying attention. Sometimes your mind is wandering off. Mind should be attentive and should be in the class. Should not be wandering off. When you go into classroom, one of my teachers used to say, go in like a wrestler. Do wudu, put up your sleeves, open your eyes, wash your face with cold water, pay attention, sit down as if you've gone in for a wrestling match. You have to be fighting. So you have to fight against your shaitan to learn and pay attention. So paying attention is the most important thing in the classroom. I don't like to teach a class which is not paying attention. And the fourth quality that I've mentioned here is discipline. Discipline is extremely important. Many people have no discipline whatsoever. They're not organized. They're not disciplined. So even as the parents have to discipline the children, teachers have to discipline the students have to be disciplined themselves to learn. And discipline is something that puts you ahead of others when you're disciplined. And without that, you will not learn. Even in an army school, they want you to be disciplined. Classroom, universities, top universities, and they all want you to be living there and be in time, punctual. All of those things. So discipline is the most important quality in terms of being prepared for gaining knowledge. And the last quality of the student is study. So if they don't study, then they will never ever gain knowledge. So study is through not only just, in Qom, they used to say that you have to study the lesson before you come to the class and try and understand it. Sometimes you'll not understand more than 10, 20% of the lesson, but at least you understand 10 to 20%. And when the teacher is teaching, you will understand the rest. And if you don't, then you can ask questions. And sometimes, when you pish mutale, as they call it, learning from before the class. And if you keep studying, there will come a time that you will start understanding more than 20, 10, 20%, 30, 40%, 50%, 60, 70%. There'll come a time then you will not even need a teacher, because you will be so good in learning from before the class that you can actually study by yourself and then go on to the next class by, go on to the next level. So always study. And even after the class, you need to study. So study before and study after. Once you finish the class, then go and repeat. Sometimes you think, oh, I thought I understood this. I don't understand it. The book says something else. And the teacher, did he or she explain it well? Did I not understand it? What happened? And it is very important that you study after having gone to the class. Okay. Now, behavior expected from a teacher to student. Like I was saying, that the teacher, how should you behave toward your student? Imam Sadiq al-Islam says that the knowledgeable man must not be harsh when he teaches and must not be disdainful when he learns. Tambihul Khawatir. Now, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, be gentle towards those whom you teach as well as to those whom you learn from. So both have to show respect to each other. That's what I've been trying to point out. It's not just, don't expect just the students to be kind and nice and obedient to you, but you have to be obedient, but kind, nice, respectful, humble towards your student. And Awali Ali and Muniyatul Murid. Muniyatul Murid is by Shahid Thani. He mentions this from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam. The right of your student, the Risalat al-Hukuk as well, I think he may have it. The right of your subjects through the knowledge you possess is to know that Allah has made you a custodian over them on account of the knowledge He has bestowed on you and the storehouses of wisdom which He has opened up for you. If you teach people well and do not mistreat them, nor treat them harshly, then Allah will increase His grace upon you. But if you withhold your knowledge from people or treat them harshly when they seek knowledge from you, then it will be Allah's right to deprive you of knowledge and its magnificence and to make you fall from your place in the people's heart. So it is very important that what we learn, we learn a lot, and sometimes we cannot teach everything. So this hadith says, you gain meaning teaching what they deserve and what they need, what they require. So if I start teaching the 7-year-olds what I teach the 17-year-olds, then I'm a fool. Then I have to make sure that I teach my students the knowledge that they can absorb or they can attain. So everyone has a level. What we teach in public may not be the same as what we teach in the classroom. What I teach, younger students may not be the same as what I teach 12-year-olds, and what I teach 17, 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds may not be the same as what I teach 12-year-olds. And likewise, what I may be teaching in the Hawza may not be the same as what I teach in Madrasa. So it is very important that we know what to teach, how to teach it, and teach it well, teach it, openly. Don't be harsh to your students. Final slide before I take questions. Behavior expected from a student to a teacher. Imam Zainul Abidin said, and this is an al-khisal of Sheikh Saduq, the right of the one who trains you in knowledge is to magnify him, to frequent his sessions, to listen to him attentively, and to attend to him with devotion. You should not raise your voice to him, nor answer a question that someone has asked him about something, so that he may be the one to answer. You should not address anyone else in his session, nor backbite anyone in his presence. You must defend him if anyone ever speaks ill of him in your presence. Conceal his faults and subsidize his virtue. You should not sit in the company of his enemy, nor be hostile towards his friend. If you fulfill this right, Allah's angels bear witness that you frequented him and learned from his knowledge for the sake of Allah. Exalted be his name, and not for the sake of people. So when you learn for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you should have all of those qualities about your teachers, show them utmost respect, and that's how you will truly learn. I would take questions if there are any, and do not wish to prolong too much on you. So you can close the slide. Sorry, I didn't. Can someone read the questions that are sent in chat?
One question is how we can teach children Aqidah of Sawab. It is an abstract concept of them.
Yes. Now, you have to give examples from this word. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when, in this world, if you do some good things, you are rewarded. If you get education, then you get good job. You behave at home, your parents like you. If you are kind to people, then people would love you. And if you're not kind, then people dislike you. So you're rewarded accordingly. Okay, so They're asking for my slides to be shared and the recordings to use, inshallah. Okay, inshallah, you can share my slides, and inshallah the recording can also share. So it is then you say that, look, when you are good in this world and you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards you in the hereafter. Likewise, when you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves you. If you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to obey the Holy Prophet. Allah will reward you for it. And when you pray, just like when you do a duty as a police officer or anyone, then you're rewarded. Just likewise, when you pray, you're rewarded. Because this life is temporary. The hereafter, after death, life is eternal. And we need to prepare for that life. And preparation for that life is through the prayers, through the good behavior, through refraining from haram. And all of those give you preparation for the hereafter. Inshallah, we will share the slides. A lot of hard work sometimes goes into these. Yes, any other questions?
No, I do not see any other questions. Thank you very much, Aga. Jazakallah.
Thank you.
We will now take a quick break. I'll keep the session running.